When Paul McCartney mused, "You've got to admit, it's getting better, a little better all the time," John Lennon muttered, "It can't get worse." Were they both right? This is the big picture on RT America. We seem to be feeling better about things. According to Gallup polling, which ranks Americans' frame of mind at a 16-month high, among those surveyed, life satisfaction has bounced back to near-pandemic levels, and significant daily stress matches pre-pandemic levels for the first time since the shutdown, and significant daily worry continues to ease as well. And I was surprised and encouraged when a recent research briefing I attended, including Ipsos polling data demonstrating that today versus a year ago, Americans are much more hopeful and much less stressed, worried, frustrated, overwhelmed, and burned out, sad and angry. Is this how you are feeling? And are you seeing green shoots of optimism sprouting? Let's ask David Bernstein, like myself, an uncle in the talk radio family, having programmed some of the most respected stations in the USA, now teaching media studies at the university level. And say hello to Dr. Lisa Mozer, host of the Teacher Talk podcast and heard on WSIC radio. David, then Lisa, are you feeling and are you seeing around you the optimism evidenced in this polling?
I can't see it yet. I want badly to feel the optimism that I know I will be seeing soon, but I am not seeing it yet. And I think the biggest cause of that is we haven't established life how we perceived it to be. It's been a year now. A year is a long time. It's even longer for younger people because their agenda is a little bit different than ours. For example, I spend my time with college students, and the college students can't achieve what they're trying to achieve. These are students that are majoring in criminal justice, nursing, financial economics, biology, psychology, English, sports management, computer science. They can't get their hands on what they need to get their hands on until this thing is really over. I have students here at the university that have never been here yet. They graduated from high school, and the last classroom they ever saw was in high school. So they are now college students finishing up their freshman year, full year, and they have never been to college yet.
Wow. David mentioned, Lisa, that he's dealing with that age group. How do you and the teachers you talk to assess the frame of mind of younger students?
It is a bit arbitrary because on the one hand, you have teachers that are at home and are able to teach online and are accustomed to teaching online. But then you also have a very complex way of pedagogy going with a blended program where the teacher is teaching in the classroom and also online at the same time. Many times the students may be familiar with online learning. Many times they may not be familiar with the online learning environment. So it is going to depend on several factors, but I do think that every teacher, regardless of what learning environment that they are in, that they are doing things much differently because we've had to add in all of the protocol that we have due to a pandemic. So we're talking about teachers that are in a physical learning environment that, in addition to all the regular stress, everybody knows teachers are stressed most of the school day when we are looking at just the typical learning day. But you add in having to take the temperature, you add in having to clean up in between classes, you add in making students keep that mask on. So it's arbitrary as to what all the tasks are involved, but everybody's doing things much differently. So that's, you know,
Every teacher,
something we have to get used to.
Yeah, and every teacher I've spoken to during the shutdown has given me the flip side of what David mentioned about the kids not having the college experience. Teachers are very frustrated not having day-to-day contact. And your podcast, Teacher Talk, is talking about what teachers talk about, and you are a certified peer support specialist. You've been facilitating a weekly teacher peer support group. With all of that coping you described teachers having to go through during the pandemic, how are they holding up?
If you are a teacher and you have children of your own, probably your biggest concern is having your students on the same schedule, the same time frame as your own children, and that is not always the case. There are some locations, and I do speak with teachers in our teacher peer support group all across the country, and so if you're in a program where it is going Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but you've got children at home that are going to school on Tuesday and Thursday, that is the biggest headache that I'm hearing, is that sometimes we're looking at a teacher as if a teacher doesn't have a family. That's real stress.
Yes, synchronizing those schedules. In Norman, Bagad, Oklahoma, newspaper columnist Andy Rieger reckons the coarsening of America didn't begin in 2016 or even 2021. It began with our learned ability to easily communicate without face-to-face interaction. Civility is often lost behind an anonymous keyboard. People who would never think of voicing an insult to another in person are quick to type such unpleasantries and share with the world. David, your students grew up in the digital swamp, yet to my eye, they do not seem more coarse than older people. If anything, their social conscience seems to be more conspicuous. Am I typecasting generations unduly?
Well, the generations are separated by more technology than anything else. I might have called my buddies when I was a teenager by doing this with the phone. I don't think today's kids understand what this is. That's okay. Each generation has its own. But I do know that what doesn't change is what's in here and what's in here. And it's difficult for the kids today. They can communicate. What they can't do is they can't communicate with each other without the help of some kind of digital fandango. It's silly, because what happens is the communications and our communications based on what we are as beings is personal. It's face to face. It's eye to eye. And when young people don't have the opportunity to carry that part of their characters out, they face a pressure from others and pressure from themselves. That leads to stress. As we know, stress is bad for us, for our bodies, and it usually leads to a poor performance. Poor performance is inefficient, it's ineffective, and it leads to failure. And that's totally unacceptable. So we have to get onto the same page where we communicate one-on-one without devices. I'm not knocking devices. We all have them, and we need them, but we don't need them for everything. And we need to rely on ourselves to be able to get back onto the neighborhood that we came from, so we're not trying to dissect a frog over an internet line.
Yeah. This is one of the big problems with the pandemic shutdown, is that it's worse now because kids have not been able to socialize with their buds at school as much. Lisa, about the technology David speaks of, how do teachers warn kids about what happens online, and how young is too young for someone to be on social media?
I certainly can see a lot of the instruction on bullying that is transferable to online learning. Cyberbullying is something that is reviewed and required to be knowledgeable of, and that's something that is reviewed not just at the beginning of the year, but throughout the year at different points. I do want to add that the cell phone, every student has a cell phone in middle school, pretty much. And oftentimes that can be the biggest distractor for learning. And I don't understand why it's so acceptable that we are seeing students younger and younger with a cell phone. And it's a big distraction during the learning period throughout the day. Regardless of what the school policy is, students seem to be able to have their phone on them during the school day when it is not the most productive time to be on your phone, but they are.
Yeah, we're speaking with Dr. Lisa Mozer, host of the Teacher Talk podcast, which, Lisa, I hope I'm not making you blush, is an excellent podcast. And David will tell you I'm a tough grader. Teacher Talk, highly recommended. And David is veteran broadcasting executive turned university media studies professor David Bernstein. Donald Trump is reportedly launching his own social media platform after getting kicked off all the others. And although his worshipers continue to flock to gaudy Mar-a-Lago for selfies with the dear leader, Trump can no longer hijack the news cycle simply by sauntering into the White House press briefing room. And while Rush Limbaugh stations have been rerunning his show since he died in February, he is, as we used to say of Francisco Franco, still dead. David, I got about a minute. Shop radio, shop talk for talk radio. Is this angry, politically lopsided caricature radio format on its last legs, or will it always be out there?
Well, we cannot determine if it's on its last legs because we've already used everything that we can. Talk radio was talking radio. You talk, I listen, I talk, you listen. We don't do that anymore. Now you talk, we out in the hinterlands listen. If we like what we hear because it agrees with what we think, we'll come back. If we don't like what we hear, we don't like you and we'll never come back. So we're doing affirmation broadcasting. We don't care about information anymore. We seem to care about affirmation, making sure that you as the listener feel comfortable when you turn us on. Facts, not so much. It doesn't always help us.
Yeah, no kidding. As we said earlier, we favor arguments over assessments. Thank you, David Bernstein and Dr. Lisa Mozer. And thank everyone who does something nice for you. Etiquette advisor to the stars, Lisa Gachet, prescribes patience.
We listen as human beings through a particular filter, and that there are some people that have a listening towards being basically being on the defense. They're almost walking around with frayed or exposed nerves, just waiting for someone to say something that may not be intentionally offensive. So I think while we are hyper-conscious of being politically correct, people need to also learn the art of letting things roll off the shoulder or rising above the fray, so that not everyone is jumping on a soapbox per se and getting offended left, right, and center, but that they are really, saving these actions for when they're really most meaningful. And I think, honestly, in these times, we also need to just cut one another a bit of a break.
Or, in the words of someone who has made me laugh all my life, Bob Newhart, now age 91, says, "When it's all over, you go to heaven, and God says, 'What did you do?' I made people laugh. Get in that real short line over there." And that is the big picture. We'll be back next week, same time, with another show. If you want to set your DVR, we're DirecTV channel 321, dish 280. You can find the RT America live stream at youtube.com/RT America. You can find all my shows archived at youtube.com/TheBigPictureRT. And all of the above is in your pocket, your purse, and on any device when you download our free, super cool, portable TV app at portable.tv or in the App Store or Google Play. I'm Holland Cooke, broadcasting from Red Sox Nation, and the Sox are back at Fenway Park. Question more.